good morning. It's wonderful to be here talking about this topic of AI, specifically in online retail. I want to start by thanking ETCIO for giving me this opportunity to be here and talk to the leaders here, the business and technology leaders here, and share some of the journey that we've had at Myntra, and talk about some of the use cases where we've been using AI. So we've been using AI for a few years now and across the value chain, right? So want to share a few illustrative examples of how we leverage data and AI at Myntra. And of course, this is applicable and extendable to any e-commerce platform, right? So before we get into some of the AI use cases, we want to start off with data, so which is obviously critical and super important for any AI based platform. So we have, of course, we use some unsupervised and semi-supervised models as well, but for the most part, a lot of the work that we do is in supervised learning, for which data plays a fundamental and critical role, right? So I want to spend the first couple of minutes talking about data specifically, and then jump into the AI-based use cases and illustrate with some examples. So this is a high-level view of the data platform or the journey at Myntra. Of course, this is super high level, as you can see. There are various sources of data, right? So we have customer data. So the various customers, users and customers that come onto our platform. So we have a lot of activity on our platform, right? So users come in, browse on our platform, search on our platform, add to wish list, add to cart, purchase. A lot of this is obviously translates to data. So that's another source of data. Then we have transactional data, as I mentioned. Then we have like product data. So we have market data. So various other sources of data as well, right? So this is, the complete set of data that we have. And all of that goes through our, data platform. So we've built a very robust data platform over the years to actually ingest all of this data and then, do the various transformations that are needed and make this available for various use cases. So one obvious use case is, at the bottom, what I've called out at the bottom, which is about reports and dashboards and insights. So like any e-commerce company, Myntra relies heavily on data to make business decisions, right? This is, various transformations that we do to make this data available in a timely fashion for our business teams, whether it is batch processing, real-time processing, and so on, to make this data available in various reports, for taking daily decisions, as business progresses. But this also provides the basis for a lot of deep insights, that we have in terms of what we can glean from this data in terms of predicting the trends and how customers are interacting with the platform, what is important, what is not important, and so on, and helps us make a lot of product decisions as well, right? So we use this data for all these purposes. Then we have our own ML platform, which uses, again, this data from the data platform for all feature engineering, model training, and eventually making all the models, ready for inferencing, right? And all of this is used across, various aspects, starting from the user experience, supply chain, as well as service experience. So I'll touch on a few examples in each of these areas, but focus mostly on the user experience part, as we go along. Just to give a bit of an indicative scale of our data platform, right, and what we're talking about here. So we have literally every single day billions of events that come through our platform, right? So we have, we have about 60 million users come onto our platform every single month. We have about 30 lakh styles, on our platform. And so there is a lot of interaction that happens, from the users on our platform, and generating all these different events, literally billions of events every single day, right? And again, we have a lot of users who come and transact on our platform. So this runs into literally millions every single day, right? So millions of transactions every single day. So we have a lot of data pipelines, over 1,000 data pipelines, that are processing this data, to make it, do all the various transformations and make this data ready and available for various use cases. Our data lake runs into petabytes of data, and I'm not even talking about data that we've already archived, but our actual kind of live data runs into really petabytes of data. We have our business users, running a lot of queries, like I mentioned, to make business decisions. This really runs into hundreds of thousands of queries, again, every single day. We have various ML models, like we have about 80 plus different ML models growing and growing, every week, every month. And all of this is, using, this data for inferencing. So we do over 2 million inferences, every single minute, actually, right? So the role of data is, obviously increasing as our traffic grows, as we are introducing more and more innovative features. We are actually consuming a lot of data. So we actually see, a 45% Y-on-Y growth on data, right? The volume of data that we're dealing with. And that's a trend that will continue to grow. But what I'm, as a CTO, what I'm proud of is while we do all this, we've tried to contain our costs. So obviously we need to have, while we are growing, we also need to have an eye on the bottom line. And we need to be controlling our costs. So this is, as for any CTO, this is an important aspect in terms of total cost of ownership. How do you, keep a very close eye on that? And through various measures, we've been able to actually, over the last few years, reduce our cost, right? So which is actually something that I'm super happy about. Some of the guiding principles that we use when we built our data platforms, just calling out a few of those. One of them is, the fundamental one is data democracy, right? So data is, very important. So we need to make it really readily available in a timely fashion, in a reliable way to all those who need it, right? So that is where data democracy comes in. So we have various tools built in, various systems built in to actually make data available, to all the users. Based on access rights, right? So we have various engineering teams that rely on this data. Our data scientists rely on this data. So how do you make this self-serve? So again, the minister was talking about bringing in efficiency. So how do you bring about efficiency, not rely on, let's say, a few data engineers to make all these pipelines and data available? So we built a lot of self-serve tools, and platforms to make this data, to build these data pipelines, right? Multi-tenancy, so we have, and it's not every job is equal, right? So there are some which are like real-time, where data is needed, in near real-time. So where processing becomes super important. So that takes precedence over some of our batch jobs. So how do you build a multi-tenant platform to make sure that we have different SLAs, we have attributions. So we also do some cost attributions in terms of how efficiently different teams or groups are using these platforms. So for all of this, multi-tenancy becomes important. Various use cases, whether it is like a Trino cluster using our data for query processing, whether it's a Spark cluster using our data for processing, a Power BI cluster for visualization. Or various ML models that are actually using, again, the data for training. Each of these are different use cases. How do you support this parallel multiple processing going on at the same time? And cost efficiency I spoke about, again, super important to keep a close watch on costs, which can very easily really balloon as the data increases, as we saw, right? Again, the minister talked about security, data privacy, something that we take super, super seriously. For data privacy, so this is something that we've been kind of continuously improving, various controls, governance mechanisms, role-based access. So basically data is available to only who really need it, right? And this is something that we continuously monitor through internal audits, external audits, and so on. So yeah, so data security compliance is again very, very important. Flexibility. So this is various sources of data. We have transactional data, we have clickstream data, and so on and so forth, right? So how do you ingest different kinds and formats of data? And also the consumers of data, again, so how do you make this available to consumers of data, again, in various formats? So the flexible input and outputs. Data discovery, as we have like, literally like petabytes of data, like literally hundreds of, tables and so on and so forth. How do you, catalog this data, right? So data discovery becomes super important as we are trying to use this data, make sense out of it, and glean some insights out of it. It is very important to have this data catalog and make this data discoverable more easily, right? So this is again a journey that we are on. We're building various platforms to make this, more easy. And then we have data quality, which is again important, right? So it's like garbage in, garbage out. So I mean, the timeliness and reliability of data is again super important. How do we ensure the freshness of data? How do we ensure the correctness of data through various validations that we need to kind of put in place? So that whole thing comes under data quality. We are using some third-party platforms as well for this, and so on, right? And building our own logic for this. And auto healing, I mean, again, that's like a more engineering thing. So when something goes down, of course, we have a lot of monitoring, in place. But how do we also make sure that wherever possible, we have our pipelines do auto heal and then come back up without needing human intervention? So I didn't want to kind of go into any further detail in getting into the actual data platform architecture and so on, and especially not first thing in the morning. So that's about data. Happy to answer any questions later, if anybody has that. But wanted to get into a little bit more the interesting side of things on how we are using this data, right? And what are some of the use cases, especially AI-based use cases that we have at Myntra. So starting with the user experience side of things, right? So I wanted to probably focus a little bit more on personalization. Various use cases, obviously, for AI, but wanted to maybe talk a little bit more on personalization, which is like a super important use case for Myntra, right? So as I mentioned earlier, so we have millions of users that come onto our platform. We have about 60 million users that come on a monthly basis. Again, millions of users coming on a daily basis. So that's one part of the equation. Then we have literally, millions of products. Like we have 30 lakh styles, as we call it, on our platform. And, one can get very easily lost, if you're not making sure that you're tailoring the experience or curating the experience in an effective way for the customers to make products more discoverable, the right products more discoverable in terms of what they're looking for. So that's where personalization, plays a super important role, especially when we're dealing with this kind of scale. And India is obviously a very vast, complex kind of country. So, the fashion sense, preferences varies widely, right? It varies widely from a geography point of view, how people kind of dress and what people prefer would be very different in different parts of the country. So again, we have other things that come into play, like fashion trends, right? Affinity to brands, right? Or affinity to price ranges. So these are again something that we need to take into account. So we have different kinds of cohorts when it comes to age, gender, and so on. So that is another thing that we need to take into consideration. Different life stages, different life stages people are on, whether somebody is like newly married, what kind of things that they would look for to wear, whether something, somebody is like vacationing, somebody is a student, somebody is a new parent. Different life stages bring in different need states. How do we address these kind of need states? So all of this factors we need to take into consideration when we are personalizing the experience to the user, right? So the whole point here is to declutter, make things more relevant, and show the user what they would most likely want, right? So that's the problem we are trying to solve. So this is where AI, plays a huge role in, helping, achieve this goal. So ultimately, we're looking at creating multiple storefronts, whether it is for these different cohorts or ultimately at a storefront at an individual level, right? So when any of you log into Myntra, the experience for you on the platform should be tailored for your preferences, right? So which makes it most useful for you, right? So that's really the ultimate goal here. So we take a multi-pronged approach for personalization, so both at a cohort level and at an individual level, right? So cohorts, there are various kinds of cohorts. Like I mentioned, it could be like location-based, whether it's a metro, non-metro, north, south, east, west. Affluence is another important aspect. So what is the affluence level of the user? And accordingly, we can show the right selection. So purchase frequency, if somebody comes frequently and is a regular at Myntra versus, let's say, somebody who's new to Myntra, how do you tailor the experience? Of course, the demographic, the gender. Then we have Gen Z, who's becoming an extremely important cohort, that we need to address. And then we have, of course, the millennials and other users. So these are all different cohorts. Then when you come to the user, you have various preferences that the user has in terms of brands, price ranges, trends, and then of course the size and fit and so on, right? So those are all things that, again, we need to take into consideration when we are developing an understanding of the user. And then we have like the product understanding, so where we, since we have very rich catalogs for all our products, having a deep understanding of the products that we have on our platform, right? That's another area. Then understanding of the fashion trends and ecosystem. People come on to Myntra for trendy fashion, right? So people who want to be, fashionable and fashion forward. So it's important for us to be able to identify these trends and show trendy fashion to our customers. So that's another aspect that we need to take into consideration. If somebody is preferring speed, somebody wants something today versus they're okay to wait, what kind of selection we can show based on availability and serviceability. And of course, how real time can one make this happen. So at a high level, our platform basically takes into account the whole user understanding, our deep product understanding of the fashion ecosystem, and then create a lot of what we call as embeddings, right? And then we use various ML models, right? So while I might not go into detail as I go into more use cases, but we use computer vision models, the usual CNNs, RNNs, YOLO, and various other transform models. So we use, again, BERT, for example, and other kinds of BERT variants transformer models to build various embeddings. We use explore, exploit kind of algorithms like the multi-arm bandit algorithms and so on for explore, exploit. So we use predictive algorithms, so the GBMs and various other predictive algorithms, for those kind of use cases. So we use a various, variety of algorithms based on use cases, and then create these outputs or outcomes. So what I'll talk to you more in the next few slides is like some of the actual kind of visualization of some of these use cases, right? So when the user is going through their shopping journey, whether it is on the home page or the search experience or the product detail page and so on, how these things manifest across the shopping journey for the user. So on the home page, we, for example, we have something which is where we have different storefronts, right? So this is an example of like an explicit personalization. Okay, here, so we ask users whether they want to use a regular Myntra experience or whether forward, which is more tailored to our fast fashion and Gen Z, or Lux, which is for our luxury shoppers, right? So for more premium products. And then accordingly, we create the entire shopping funnel experience here, right? So what we call as a quarantined store-in-store or an app-in-app experience. So what you see here are examples where you can literally either choose it through a pre-home or like even be able to choose and switch to experiences once you're inside as well. And each of these home pages, where there are various recommendation, widgets, which is completely kind of AI driven. The order in which you're showing these widgets, or which selection of which widgets that you show on the home page, that is again AI driven. So ultimately what we are doing here is a completely algorithmic driven page, right? So that when you want to get to the goal of having a completely different personalized experience for every single user, it has to be done at scale, and AI is really the only way to do it. So that's one kind of large use case. Search, of course, is very, very important for any e-commerce company. A majority, in fact, like more than half of our revenue comes from traffic that originates from search. So it's super important for us to be able to provide a very, very good search experience. Again, AI plays a very key role here, right? So we're starting from things like auto-suggest, right? So that is again personalized, again based on things that you've done on the platform previously. The results that we show, right, the list page, the ranking. So again, so for anything that you search, since we have a huge selection of products, how do we show? What do we show? Because people don't really scroll beyond the first, let's say, a couple of pages, right? So the most relevant products for the user has to be shown, within those first few pages. So ranking becomes super important, and that's again personalized. So we use AI for this, right? And then ads, we show ads as well. So this is again kind of personalized. So again, on the next, coming to the PDP, so which is our product detail page, various widgets, in terms of recommendations that we do, things which are similar, products which are similar, products that go well with this, products that other customers bought, for when they bought this product. All of these are again AI driven, right? So again, using a combination of computer vision models and text-based models. So these are some examples of some of these widgets that I spoke about. So continue browsing is very obvious. An interesting one is the second one in the middle, which is shop the look, where if somebody, so each of our catalog, our images are curated, right? So if you like a particular look, so you can actually buy that entire look, right, at the click of a button, or find something very similar. And again, as you can imagine, this is using a computer vision based, AI model. So again, what is trending among cohorts, like collaborative filtering approaches and so on. So we use those to show what others have bought, so that you can get some fashion inspiration, from that as well, right? And various other kind of recommendation models across the board. Another interesting use case for AI here that we've introduced is what we call as My Stylist. So this is keeping with our mission statement of basically democratizing fashion using technology, right? That's our mission statement. Why can't every single user on Myntra have their own personal stylist, right? So that was the thought process behind this. So if somebody has, let's say, bought, it looks like I'm not able to play this video. So you can see the screenshots here. So where it's based on, what somebody has already bought or somebody has browsed on, what other products could go well with that, right? So this is based on, an ensemble of, ML models. We use fashion experts, to create these ensembles and train these models, both with, positive or recommended experiences and even negative examples of what one should not wear, right? And based on this, we create this, we've created this ensemble of ML models. And based on this, we actually present these looks, right? So, for that users can choose if they want to. So this is again providing fashion experience for users. Gen AI is obviously the flavor of the day. So this is one of the first experiences we rolled out, called My Fashion GPT. A couple of months after ChatGPT 3.5 came out. So what we saw is a lot of people, people searching for specific products, like a blue shirt or a black shoe is a solved problem, right? Or a shirt under $9.99 and so on and so forth. But if people are looking for more open-ended queries, right? Show me the look. I want the look that Tom Cruise had in the Mission Impossible movie, right? Or I'm going to go on vacation, so what should I wear? So these are more open-ended queries. People are looking for some fashion inspiration, right? So this is a great problem that we were able to solve using fashion Gen AI, where using that we are actually able to get the user intent understanding and user query understanding, and then marry that with our own search infrastructure, and be able to provide these different collections of products that are most relevant for this particular kind of query. Further extending this logic is like actually a conversational shopping assistant, right? So it's something little similar to what we would all experience going to an offline store, where you're actually talking to the shopping assistant and asking for some suggestions and narrowing down your choices. So we wanted to, and this is like a new shopping paradigm, right? So, and this is something that we want to experiment with, and all of this, by the way, very innovative, like first in the industry kind of thing, and we actually see increasing traction for these adoption. And for people who are using some of these features, we actually see them a good repeat percentage of users, and actually conversions going higher. So something people find useful, right? So the conversational shopping assistant is like like a chat, right? So chatting with the shopping assistant, again using Gen AI, and how you can start with a fairly broad query saying, I want to go to a party this weekend, what should I wear? And then helping narrow down the choices, right? Size and fit is another very unique problem in our industry. Okay, think I'll wrap it up. So, which is, as we know, like, different brands, like a medium in one brand doesn't mean that, medium in another brand fits. So we're trying to recommend the right size, and for the product, for the person, again, using, Gen AI, right? Let me just... virtual try-on, people are, again, probably aware. So how the visualization of products on people. So you can actually see how both for an apparel and beauty and personal care products, how these products look on a particular person virtually, so that, people can make more informed decisions, right? So those are some of the examples I want to just cover on the experience side. Just one on the supply chain side, I guess broadly, supply chain is a huge optimization problem, right? There's various constraints that we are operating on, in terms of picking capacity, line haul capacity, and so on and so forth. There is the delivery agent availability capacity, and so on and so forth. How do you optimize at each part of the supply chain? Again, AI plays a very crucial role, starting from like the demand forecasting up front to, and translating those to demand forecasting at the various kind of big box or the delivery center kind of levels, the intercluster kind of movement of, inventory, and ultimately, route optimization. So across the chain, supply chain, so AI plays a super critical role. And lastly, here on service experience is just a quick example of how, for example, for a customer care agent, when a person is, picking up an existing ticket and answering, if we can quickly summarize, all the previous interactions this customer has had on this problem, it makes it quicker for the new agent to be able to respond and, close the ticket, or resolve the ticket. And of course, it results in, the average hold time for the customer, to be lesser, right? So which is a good experience for the customer. It can also provide like a sentiment analysis in real time, so that suitable actions can be taken as conversations are going on. So these are some examples, on how we're using AI across the board to enhance customer experience, as well as, bring about more efficiency, in the whole, value chain at Myntra. And as I said, this is something that obviously is very relevant for any e-commerce company. Thank you.